Hi, I'm Joe Dante, and I'm here with the Code Red people to talk about one of my favorite movies, The Sadist, which I saw in 1963 in a grindhouse in Philadelphia. I think I may have been the only white person in the theater. These pictures were not easy to see. It was interesting, in the early 60s was actually a pretty interesting time for American independent movies. There were a lot of really interesting, strange pictures being made, like Carnival of Souls and Night Tide and The Glass Cage, and movies that aren't really very well known, but would look back on today are pretty innovative and interesting and have a lot of interesting directorial touches. The Sadist was a little unusual in that it takes place in real time. The whole picture takes place in 94 minutes from the time it starts to the time it ends. And it's based, of course, on the Charlie Starkweather murder story, which Terrence Malick later turned into Badlands. But this approach is basically 5 actors and a small crew shooting for something like $30,000 in a junkyard. And that's pretty much the main location. It's shot by Vilmos Zsigmond. It was the first picture he ever shot entirely on his own. He used the name William Zsigmond because I guess there was some questions about what does Vilmos mean. And it's directed by and written by James T. Landis, who did a lot of pictures for a company called Fairway International, and actually not very many other pictures other than those. They're all varying degrees of not so good, but this one is just one of those cases where everything gels. Everything comes together. It's in its own way, it's a perfect little gem. It stars Arch Hall Jr., who is the son of Arch Hall Sr. Imagine that. And Arch Hall Sr. had a company called Fairway International, which he ran, sometimes using the name Nicholas Merriweather when he would direct something, didn't want to put his name on. And he was convinced that his son was going to be a movie star, and so he would put him in these various pictures, starting when he was quite young, in pictures like The Choppers and Ega. You can sort of see the kid grow up. By the time they got to The Sadist, he was a pretty hunky kid, and gives a performance that is fairly unique in the annals of cinema, in that it is incredibly over the top. Sometimes he seems like a demented baby. This crazed teenage thrill killer who is holding some teachers hostage in the junkyard. There are elements of sort of a crazed Dwight Fry in some of his performance, but it is sometimes ludicrous, but it is nothing other than riveting throughout the entire movie. He is one of the great movie villains, and the compositions in this picture are impeccable. Vilmos had an eye, and the picture looks much more expensive than it really was, and just classy. It's this really well photographed picture, and for years it was available in crummy dupes. It's public domain, and people would make copies of copies. This one is off an original dupe negative, and probably will be the best this picture has ever looked since it played theaters. And I can only say that if this is the first time you've ever seen it, I think you're in for a surprise. If you are like me, a fan of it, I think you'll be very impressed that a picture made under these circumstances this long ago without any real owners can still look great, and it kind of gives you hope for all the other missing and beat up movies that we are hoping to see sometime in our lifetime. You better hurry up.